Welcome back to episode 3 of the Sons of Pitches podcast. This is our second iteration of the weekend review. We're going to go through all the big leagues, especially the ones we all care about, and we're going to look at what happened this weekend, all the big games, all the little games. Let's see how it goes. So obviously, most important league in the world, debatably, we got the Premier League. Biggest game of the weekend, boys. What do we feel?
Well, I think we have to go to the one that closed out the weekend first. And unfortunately, put our good friend Patrick on the spot again.
I know.
I managed to catch a good amount of this game. I don't know. My takeaway from Man United is the same again. I feel like they just really struggled offensively. It took them about 70 minutes to put a shot on target. They just really couldn't create much. I thought Liverpool were the better side, and they should really feel hard done by to not come away with the 3 points in this game. They really, especially in the second half, they were really putting the pressure on. And if it wasn't for Onana coming up with a couple big saves towards the end, especially to deny Salah, I think United were really fortunate in the end to keep it 0-0, actually. What did you think about it, Patrick?
I would agree. So I think that was the game plan, though. You know, obviously they've been talking about Liverpool's. I know even Sky Sports posted something on Instagram about the best front 5 in the world. You know, Nunez, Salah, Diaz, Jota. So I think that was the game plan, though. You know, kind of play defensively. We haven't really been that good all season defensively, and especially with Maguire out, who's in form. You know, Varane's back, so that was huge. I thought Johnny Evans played great. I thought Luke Shaw played really good against Salah. I love the Shaw emptied his pockets and Salah fell out memes. Those are the best. Salah kind of didn't really do much, if I'm being honest. I thought Kobbie Mainoo had a great game again. He's gonna be really good. It's just gotta get him the pieces around. But yeah, attacking wise, terrible. It was a great defensive performance, but a really poor offensive, like you said. It took him 70 minutes to bust a shot, and honestly, I think Højlund has to score from about 6 yards.
I agree.
Regardless of how good Alisson is, he shoots it across his body after Alisson stepped up to him. As a striker, you should be thinking, near post is open at least. Or you got to do better. Just you pay 75 million euros for somebody, you expect them to at least, challenge the keeper, not shoot it right at him. So, just lacking the quality once again. But really happy with the result. So, I'll take it.
No Bruno. You have to be happy with that. I mean, you're gonna struggle offensively and to create chances without him, but still get a 0-0 draw. Yeah,
it was funny. I almost fell over when McTominay actually passed the ball to the winger. It was actually like, holy shit, because he never does that. First half, he was absolutely dreadful. Probably had a 3.0 out of 10, honestly. He was absolutely terrible. He gets the ball, loses it. And then in the second half, towards the middle of it, he kind of started to control the ball more and started to, use his body, shield, and pass the ball around, which was, pretty effective. As we see, he was integral, I think, in the second half to at least some of the chances we created, even though there were very few.
Yeah, it's interesting. You look at stats and stuff. I mean, United didn't even get to an XG expected, like an expected goal. Liverpool were at 34 shots for Liverpool, which is insane. I mean, I guess shout out to Onana, who we've been talking a lot of crap about. Obviously, we put a little video out. But, he makes a lot of saves in this game. I don't know how integral he was to the result, but I mean, it's you expect from your goalkeeper, and he at least met expectation and played well. But yeah, you guys create nothing, without Bruno. And we talk about that you made that quote, that De Bruyne quote about the pass accuracy thing, and actually United had awful pass accuracy and only about 200 passes compared to Liverpool's 500. So yeah, he just did not.
We got dominated with possession.
Yeah.
The 2 chances that come to my mind are, Mainoo sent the ball to Garnacho, who miscontrolled it like he always does. Probably could have taken his shot and scored if he actually, got the ball out from under his feet. And then obviously the Højlund chance. Those are the 2 big ones. I love what, Virgil said to Onana in the tunnel. I don't know if you guys saw it, but he said, we only played about half an hour because of you. And so Onana just smiled at him. Which is funny. And then they interviewed Onana and said, how was the atmosphere? This mythical Anfield atmosphere that they always talk about. and yet everybody who's played there says it's quiet. So
Interesting.
I think
Yeah.
it's a little bit of a propaganda to say that Anfield is one of the toughest places to play with the atmosphere, because I don't know if the players are, being honest, but it seems like as of recently it's been dead in there from what I
Yeah.
see on
Yeah,
social
it is
media. They
crazy.
said that they saying you'll never walk alone, and then they were quiet for 90 minutes. That's what I heard
Yeah.
all over Twitter, talking about how is Liverpool a real team, all this stuff. Obviously, some jokes, but
Yeah.
it was just crazy to hear again, because he was like, yeah, didn't feel anything, and he played great. I mean, he distributed the ball very well in that game. He almost got an assist out of it too, so it was pretty good from the back, I'd say.
Yeah, just touching on Onana real quick. From my perspective, I thought, yeah, like I called him out last week. I questioned his mentality. I said that I thought he was an emotional guy, and I thought he played really well in this game. I don't think he made any outstanding or like head turning saves in this game, but I think he did what was asked of him. He made 8 saves, and he did what he answered the call every time, and I think that's what you need from a goalkeeper, and it's a good result for him, especially because we all know he's been struggling lately. So to get a clean sheet in a game like that against Liverpool, I think it's good for his confidence.
Yeah. I
Absolutely.
totally agree. But yeah, I guess taking the heat off United, because we'd like to talk a little smack to you. But Liverpool, I just have been a shadow of what they can be, what they have been, and yeah, like you said, there's just not that same, like that, those pictures, everybody smacking the Anfield sign in the tunnel, and it just doesn't feel like it's like that anymore.
It feels like players like Henderson and Milner being gone and not there this season, they've lost a bit of that. This is Liverpool. Like it doesn't feel like obviously there's great players playing there and they're playing unbelievable. They're in second place. Like
Yeah.
they're no joke. But it feels like these guys don't have that this is Liverpool, like we wear the red shirt with pride.
Yeah.
Like kind of attitude, it feels like almost. Like they still have Trent obviously there, who's an academy kid, but other than that, I mean, a lot of these guys they've just brought in this season, and I think maybe some of the new signings are still getting used to that Liverpool mantra and the atmosphere. You'll never walk alone and all stuff like that. And I think a lot of the fans probably aren't really totally in love with some of the new players yet. I know some of them had some good performances like Szoboszlai. But other than that, I mean,
It's
yeah,
a
it's been
wonder
pretty
goal
run of the
scorer,
mill for
though,
them.
in my opinion. I think he's been pretty average. Scores a good
Who's
goal
that?
here and there. Szoboszlai.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
but I think
I
they've
think
had
Absolutely
I
woken
think
up.
McAllister's been playing better than him, quite frankly.
definitely. I
I thought
agree.
Endo really had a good game too. Honestly, I thought Endo played great.
I
If I
think
had to shout out a Liverpool player,
yeah, Endo's been good the last couple games, but I think looking at their midfield, like the amount of change and turnover they've had just from last season to this season, I think it's kind of impressive that they've been able to gel this quickly and play together the way they have. I mean, Gakpo's playing in the midfield at times, and we all thought he was a striker or a winger when he signed for Liverpool. So it's
yeah,
kind of interesting to see what's
he's like
going
a
on.
multi-tool for them. It's pretty cool. I like to watch him play. Obviously, we were linked to him too, so I was pretty excited because tall kid, strong, can play everywhere. He hustles up and down, and we're seeing it for Liverpool, which is unfortunate. But he made a little bit of an impact when he came on. I was getting a little nervous with him around the box, so I'm glad that we were able to stick it out with that result, though.
Yeah.
It's going to be
Absolutely.
big.
Yeah, from
The
a
last
numbers
part of
point of
that
view,
game.
you definitely, I think, stole the point in terms of,
I agree.
you know what I mean? Liverpool, I feel like, lost it 2 points, and United won that point.
Yeah, they're
Even
just
though, I mean, it's not the
lackluster.
best, way to look at it from a club United size, but I mean, just based on how the game went down. I think another big game in terms of significance of like how a club is doing right now, in Manchester, even though we didn't play the United game in Manchester, but they're Manchester neighbors. Man City blow a 2-0 lead against Crystal Palace. I was watching that game, and I mean, City looked great. They were all over Palace at the beginning of the game. It didn't look like they were missing much of a beat without their usuals in there. But yeah, then it just kind of switched off. Obviously, like the late penalty, like what can you do? But still, I feel like they switched off, and the last 15 or so minutes just went Crystal Palace's way, and they completely blew it. I don't know if anybody else has a hot take on that game, but
Yeah, I agree. I mean, my takeaway from this game was I thought that City played well. I especially probably for the first 60, 65 minutes of this game, they were definitely the better side. Crystal Palace definitely weren't out of the game. They were making some chances for themselves, and they responded pretty significantly in the game. And once they scored, I really thought they turned up. They kicked up another gear. I felt like this season I've seen a lot of Man City this season, and I just feel like something's off defensively. In their midfield, it feels like something's missing. I made a point to a friend of mine who's a City fan, and it was interesting to hear his perspective on it. I think they're really missing Gundogan this season. I think they're really a team that plays and is heavy on their rhythm and tempo, especially with their passing. We all know what they're famous for in terms of how they move the ball, but I think that they're missing that player that just sets the pace for everybody and sets the rhythm of the game and really controls the passing, almost like a regista for them. I don't think De Bruyne's that type of player, and I don't think Kovacic, who they brought in to replace Gundogan, is that type of player either. He strikes me more of a facilitator. And in terms of defensively, I just feel like there's something missing there too. Like they're losing their focus for seconds. I thought the first goal was really preventable, to be honest. It doesn't come from much. The ball gets played across and Mateta gets to tap it in. But I just feel like it's too easy to beat the defender sometimes. Something that I think is really notable is we've only played 17 games this season, and City have already conceded 20 goals. That's not the Manchester City and the Guardiola Manchester City that we're used to. So obviously something's not right, and I think it's very interesting to see how they go forward because obviously they're dropping points again here. So there's a problem. We all know that.
Yeah, it just seems like they're just not cutthroat like they used to, right? Like every game they have, like they're dominating every game, but for some reason it just doesn't result in goals, and they don't look as dangerous, I guess. I mean, they're always in full control, but I don't know, they don't look as scary as they always have been when you come against them.
I agree. And no Holland obviously makes a difference too, but something that I thought was really notable is if you look at the stats from this game, Palace only had 26% possession, but they had a higher XG by the end. Like, what's going on there? We know City to create all these chances to fire balls into box minute after minute, and something's going to come of it. But I mean, that's not good against Crystal Palace for them to have more expected goals than you.
Right.
That's not good in my opinion for City.
Right. And for those who don't understand like what XG comes from, and it's just essentially a calculation of shots and chances created, and like based on historical data, they create like a value for that shot and how likely it is to go in. And yeah, it's interesting, like you said, like without KDB, without Haaland, the chances that they are creating, despite, it's still City is clearly still like a top club in Europe, top 5 easy. You know what I mean? It's not even it's not even a question. But yeah, it's they don't create that. Yeah, like Jay said, like the lethal finishing, that like clear cut, just great shots that a keeper has to stretch and save. Yeah, I totally agree. They lack something going forward. I was giving Zach, our fellow compatriot, a little shit for it in the group chat. Probably because you just can't do it too often with City since they're always winning. But it took the opportunity because, like obviously City have a lot of money. They have a big squad. They have great squad depth, probably the best in the Premier League in terms of just on paper. And yet they miss KDB, they miss Haaland, and it's like a whole new team. Do you know what I mean? It's just interesting that
Doku's been big for them too, and he was out as well. So it's pretty interesting to see.
They have a couple of injuries.
But Doku comes in as an addition.
The bench.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say John Stones was the only sub all game that Pep made, by the way. So which is crazy.
But I feel like
talking about their depth, and like he's got players that he could bring off. Like, they got Mateus Nunes from Wolves.
Yeah.
And they have Kovacic, they have Phillips, like Akanji. They could have subbed in somebody to change the pace, but he just didn't choose to, and like you said, Palace gets 2 goals in the second half, and it's over like that. I bet you Pep wishes he could have probably switched up something, but
Pep, you know how Pep is. He always overthinks anything. So like he could have a bench of you could have Haaland, KDB, everybody on the bench. If he thinks one way is going to work better than the other, he'll leave them all on the bench and make one sub. So that's just how he is. But interesting for City though, they have 1 Premier League win since November 4th, and that's only against Luton. That's really crazy. They've gone over a month without a win.
Yeah, I mean, it's just 1 win. It's insane to look at it too. Like, I don't think anybody thought a week before Christmas that City would be sitting in fourth place, 5 points off the top. Like, it's kind of crazy. And I think that maybe they're suffering a little bit of a hangover from the Champions League. You know, a lot of those players, that's the one thing they've been chasing in that team, and they did the treble last season. They had a long season. They played. I'm sure a lot of them played over 60 games. So I think maybe there's a little bit of a hangover for them this season, and especially now with the season ramping up with the holiday schedule and in so many games back to back to back. I think we're really starting to see them struggle now, and it's becoming apparent.
Yeah, but they may have. This is either going to be a big advantage or a disadvantage for them because they're going to the Club World Cup, so they've got a little chance to reset, get away from the Premier League and kind of high competition. Because realistically, they should be favorites for the Club World Cup. They'll probably do some rotation. They'll get a nice warm weather holiday and training session. So
could be an opportunity to travel though.
Yeah, I think
they could recollect themselves and get themselves going again. So and then they just have a big run into games when they get back. So that'll be interesting. It'll be another round of them kind of catching up with like 3-4 games at hand at one point, and probably looking really far down in the table. So
yeah, it's. I mean, our buddy Fab tweeted today that KDB is back in the training squad during this in Saudi Arabia during the Club World Cup. So it'll be interesting to look because when we do a little mid-season review, it'll be 2 more games for City. So it'll be interesting how our opinion might change if KDB and I don't know if when Haaland's supposed to come back, but if they're both back within those 2 games and they just have a blowout win, we may have a whole different opinion. Because obviously they started the season strong. Because obviously, like you said, one win in the past month meant the other 9 wins came before November. So they obviously had.
And we always know, as we've seen in previous seasons too. So even if City starts slow. Yeah. If they drop a couple points here and there, they always finish the season, the last 10, 15 games, unbelievably, and they're obviously the team to beat every year from that stretch of games on. So I think they're definitely not out of the fight at all. I think they're still definitely a team to be feared. That's for sure.
Definitely just begging the question, just because we have the chance to. But no, for sure, just to ask questions of the club. And obviously it goes back to the squad depth because, second half of the season, they still have the legs. They still have the talent with legs. And they usually come out pretty well. So we'll have to see how that goes. Other big games, quickly touched, Chelsea, finally grabbing some points, much needed for them.
Yeah.
But it's against Sheffield.
In the Chelsea game, I just want to give a shout out to Jordi Petrovic. He started in goal. He's a former Revolution goalkeeper from last season, so pretty cool. Big ups to him to get a start in the Premier League. I mean, to go from the Revolution to there is pretty crazy. So and Nkunku started on the bench for this game. I know he didn't see any game time for them, but it's going to be interesting to see the impact that he can make. We know they spent a lot of money on him in the summer, and he hasn't even been able to play yet. So if he can start getting into this team and making a difference for them, I mean, they really need to get a spark. I know they won this weekend, but I think the results almost to be expected. They're playing the bottom of the table team, and it's a 2-0 win that they should have. Right. And I thought, to be honest with you, they kind of weren't that great in the first half. I mean, they didn't really create any clear-cut chances. They kept Sheffield United out. They didn't really have any chances either, and I think the quality just made the difference in the second half for them. They got a couple lucky goals, and they finished 2-0.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people talk. A lot of jokes about how much Chelsea have spent and their lack of result from. But there's always that buffer zone, right, where like players need to gel together. So honestly, on paper, if this team ever does gel, it's dangerous. You know what I mean? The sheer talent on paper that they were bringing in, they were playing price tags for a reason, arguably too much for a lot of players. But if they ever do gel to the potential, this team, there's room for a lot of improvement.
Their manager is no joke either.
Right. So
they should be doing significantly better than they are, especially once they're all healthy and all that.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got real firepower on that team. Just for some reason, every time you look at their lineup, you just can't help but laugh. All that money and they're still playing.
It still doesn't feel
pretty
well, I think they fall into almost the same category as United. I know we've talked about United in the last couple of episodes where they really don't have a consistent lineup, and it's hard for them to get chemistry and to build a bonding between the players. And I think Chelsea struggle with that same issue. Mm-hmm. And I think their issue is they have spent so much money and brought in so many players that they don't know who to play, who needs to start every game, and they feel like they're not getting their money's worth if they don't give these players time. So I think that it's kind of difficult for Pochettino to pick an 11 every game, and I understand why he does what he does, but he needs to sort it out for them to start getting results, and especially to start picking up big wins.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know you just badmouthed United, but I mean they've got a lot more injuries than us, so I can't really blame Poch that much. Same thing. I don't really blame Ten Hag for.
Yeah.
Once you have injuries, I mean their left back's out, their right back's out. They don't have a
that's
their
true.
structure that
Yeah.
they're missing. So
Mhm.
they're kind of making do with what they got. I mean, obviously Nicholas Jackson's starting to score somehow because I don't rate him at all, but
Same.
he's clearly starting to score. Cole Palmer's still putting up big games, so we'll have to wait and see how they finish. I mean, they finished good last year, so
Yep.
let's anticipating to see if they can clean it up this year. Obviously, after starting like shit. So
Yeah. Another game of heavy hitters. Had to see one of my favorite clubs lose, but obviously to the top placed team in the Premier League. Arsenal versus Brighton, that 2-0 game. Obviously, I had mentioned in the midweek about Arsenal not playing as well in the league, but it's just more of like a quiet season, even though they're sitting first. I don't know. It's just this Premier League season has been a little weird almost to me. I feel like the
I agree.
noisiest teams are just the teams that are making surprising runs towards the top of the table, like Aston Villa and Newcastle and a little bit of West Ham and Brighton. And then the big clubs, yeah, who are still sitting on top, but like expectedly, but are just still having quiet seasons. But yeah, the Arsenal game. How do we feel about that game?
I think Arsenal played fantastic. They had moments of that game where they fully dominated against a good Brighton side. But
Mhm.
Brighton did also show that they're not crap. Like they can go up against the big guys. But
Right.
yeah, Arsenal was definitely just too good. There was a lot of quality there, and just I know you notice a lot of teams they're able to pass around, hold possession, all that, but the way Arsenal can move right around the box and like those final passes is pretty impressive, and they do really well there. So, and then also I'll shout out Odegaard. I think he's been kind of quiet the last pretty much all season. He hasn't done too much. Looked fantastic this last game. He did a lot, so that was good to see from them.
Yeah,
yeah,
I thought
good.
I thought Arsenal were phenomenal in this game. I was impressed with the amount of chances they created. I thought they could have scored probably 5, 6, 7 goals in this game if they really wanted to. I think the finishing was a bit lacking, um, and I think that's been the story of Arsenal lately. But they still got the result, so nothing to complain about there. Havertz has got 4 goals in his last 7 in all competitions for them, so that's pretty good for him. I'd like to say.
That's
I know
good
he
too.
catches a lot of shit online, but it's good to see him kind of shutting up the haters a little bit.
Yep.
And I thought it was really interesting. After the game, De Zerbi, he said that they were pretty much played off the field. He said that the team suffered for 90 minutes and that they're not used to being in a type of game where the team that they're playing against is the one to control the game. And I think that showed. I thought that Brighton looked uncomfortable for the entire 90 minutes. Yeah, they created a couple of chances, but they weren't able to play their game. I thought Arsenal set up brilliantly. I thought their pressing was fantastic. We all know Brighton's the type of team to build out from the back, and that's how they produce majority of their chances is by taking their time and making things happen and breaking teams down. But I thought Arsenal really didn't allow them to do that at all. Their energy was fantastic. They never stopped running the whole time, and they deserved to win. So that's my thoughts on that. But what do you think, Pat?
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't think Brighton even had a chance in the first once the first 10 minutes were in, I was like, yeah, Brighton's gonna lose. They're not playing good at all. Even though yes, it's football and everything changes, but the way Arsenal have been playing, I mean, they weren't first until we knocked out Liverpool off the top, so they can thank us for that one. But I thought Gabby Jesus again. Now that he's back and finding his form again, dude, he's just so wonderful to watch play when he's on his day, And you wanted to shout out Havertz. I also wanted to shout him out too. I liked Kai Havertz. I know my brother when he signed, he was like, "Hey, how's Kai Havertz?" And I said, "Yeah, he's pretty good. He's just been a little out of form." So started off really really bad, but he's playing pretty good now. So and Jason, you mentioned Odegaard. I think Odegaard's been fantastic, and I think it's time to start having a conversation about Saka, about him being probably top 3 winger in the world because he has been unreal this season in all comps. It's like not even. He's like I read a stat the other day, and Adam actually sent it to me after I read it. He's like one of the only 2 players ever to have a goal and an assist against all the Premier League clubs, or something like that. It was like
That's crazy.
insane, And
Oh yeah.
so I mean, it seems like every game he's either getting a goal or assist. I mean, put up a good game, didn't get any goal contributions, but still creating chances left and right. So, wanted to give a shout out to him too. Arsenal doesn't pay me as much as the other Premier League clubs because we whooped their ass in the early 2000s. So, not mad at them.
Yeah. Yeah, it just feels like because Arsenal last season, yeah, you'll joke around that they blew the league, but they had a really young team, right? I don't remember the numbers, but the average was pretty low. So another year of experience, another, sometimes losing, having that defeat really changes your character, especially if you're an impressionable youth, and then you have a couple people like Arteta, leading you, who's a seasoned, obviously Premier League vet. Um,
Yeah.
and it can use that to build. And obviously, like you said, Pat, Saka's playing great. Odegaard, when he was like 16 signing for Real Madrid or whatever it was, this huge name on him, then kind of like fell off in a couple loan spells, now really just making his name for himself at a different club. Kai Havertz finally clicking, Martinelli showing up, Gabriel Jesus back in form. Yeah, so it's obviously really clicking. Maybe they just need a little boost in January to keep their season rolling so they don't fall over like they did last year.
Yeah.
And then credit to Brighton. Go ahead.
One thing I wanted to touch on before we move on from this game is just the goalkeeping situation over there at Arsenal.
Yeah.
We know they brought in Raya to give Ramsdale a little bit of competition, and they seem to have decided that Raya is the number one over the last couple of weeks. He's been getting more of the important games. I know Ramsdale got a couple of starts in the Champions League and in the Cup, but I just think it's so weird what they're doing here. It really gives me shades of PSG when they had Donnarumma and Navas at the same time, and they were both fighting out for a number one spot, and it really didn't work out. And I'm afraid that Arsenal are going to do the same thing, where they're going to back the wrong goalkeeper in the end. And I think, yeah, Raya is a better goalkeeper with his feet, but at the end of the day, the goalkeeper's job is keeping the ball out of the net, and in my opinion, Ramsdale is a better goalkeeper in that regard. So it's really weird to me to see how he was so important to them last season. Like, Ramsdale was solidified number one. Like, nobody was taking his job last season, and now Raya comes in, and all of a sudden he's gone. Like,
yeah, but it's
I have to ask questions of Arteta about that. I don't know. It's interesting.
Neither of them are really that good. So that's the weird part. Like, I don't think either of them are world class keepers. Like,
I agree. I mean,
in the other top six,
they're
they're the worst keeper of the rest of the top six, probably.
I mean, both of them were playing in the championship a couple seasons ago.
Yeah,
I mean, not to discredit the quality of them. They're both Premier League goalkeepers, and they're both very good, obviously. But at the same time, they're not very experienced. They don't have a lot of top-level games under their belts, either of them. I mean, I know Ramsdale had a couple seasons where he just saw everything go past him before. Yeah. But other than that, I mean, Raya came up with Brentford. I thought he was pretty good. I rated him as a keeper. Same with Ramsdale. But I don't think they're the top quality, world-class goalkeeper that some of these other teams have in the Premier League that's going to bring them to the next level. Like your Allisons, like your Edersons, like your Emi Martinez's. I don't think that these guys are at that level. And I don't, not to discredit them, but I don't see either of them really getting there either.
Yeah. I watched some videos. I won't name drop many content creators, but I watched some videos where it's like there needs to be competition in a spot, right? But the goalkeeper position, I mean, like you've mentioned before, G, in a side conversation we had, it's game experience, match experience, right? The more games you put together, the more you understand how your defenders in front of you block, where they like, if one like tends to lean to the right or whatever it might be,
just how they read the game.
How you read the game, their habits and stuff. It's all about consistency. It's all about having those games, and then it's about having that number two behind you that is like tickling for your spot, kind of, but is also like your biggest cheerleader on the side. Like, you make a save, they're screaming your name. You know what I mean?
I believe personally, I believe the best environment is to have your goalkeeper. Your number one goalkeeper needs to be your best goalkeeper.
Right.
Like, solidified number one. Your number two goalkeeper, he don't have to be a world beater by any means, but he needs to be someone who's supportive, someone who wants to be in the team, is not mad that he's not playing every game, and is okay with being part of a group and working with the goalkeeper that's ahead of him, with the younger goalkeepers. That, in my opinion, it's kind of like I don't know if anybody watches football here, but the backup quarterback is a pretty important role in a football team just because of their knowledge of how they are with the team. And I think the backup goalkeeper in a soccer team is pretty comparable to that.
Yeah.
Because they're kind of like a glue almost. I look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. What I was going to say earlier before we move on is the credit to Brighton. I mean, they have a lot of key injuries out. But I think they're still holding their own. Obviously, we had a conversation about them in Europe. Still sitting ninth. It's just respectable in the Premier League despite a lot of injuries. So I think they're still holding their own despite having to rotate and not always play the exact 11 that De Zerbi might want. But yeah, Arsenal obviously walked them off the field this game. Before we put a bow on the Premier League, I think another quick game to just mention, just because it's a team that regained a little bit of form, and it was just a brilliant game, 3-0. Newcastle versus Fulham. Obviously, Newcastle are not letting that title contention, or at least top 4 contention, die. And had a great game against Fulham, who's not a bad club by any means. They don't typically concede a whole lot of goals.
I agree, but I think the red cards really made a difference in this game.
Yep, I was going to say.
I'm still questioning what Raul Jimenez was trying to do there. I mean, I know maybe he thought that the ball was going to get flicked over his head.
Flick it over him, and he could read it, but he was
yeah,
very wrong.
Silly.
I don't know what was going on there. And from there, I mean, it took Newcastle a little while to break Fulham down. I thought they were pretty good defensively after they got the red card to be down a man for that long.
Yeah.
And then once Lewis Miley scored his first goal for Newcastle, it pretty much was floodgates open from there, and see you later, Fulham.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Fulham's coming off of 2 consecutive 5-0 victories, and then just a 4-3 loss to Liverpool. So they've been on a good run of form. They've been playing well.
Yeah.
So that victory, I mean, granted the red card changed the game. That's still a big win for them. But the crazy thing I noticed about Newcastle, when they play at home, it's kind of crazy. Like the way a minute in, like they'll just hit a tackle and then they just all start celebrating and screaming in the crowd. Like it's a good atmosphere to see in the Prem, and it's good to have these historic clubs like a Newcastle, a Villa, kind of back playing well again and competing.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, it's funny.
I was going to say one player to shout. I want to shout out Livramento for coming back after that long hiatus. He's been playing great. So
yeah.
Nate, go ahead. I just wanted to squeeze that in there.
No, yeah, actually, he's a definitely a great player. I play FM. He's a FM legend, so for sure, a good performance from him. I was gonna say, Jay, you say the atmosphere. It's funny. I just happened to notice. I saw the numbers for the Chelsea game. Chelsea obviously a big club, arguably to top 6. Obviously, been out of form for a couple seasons, but only like 39K at their stadium, and Newcastle put up a respectable 52,000 fans in the stadium. And like you said, that atmosphere at home is crazy. Fulham 5-0 victories back to back. Don't concede really. Obviously they have Jean Paulina. I love that man, the way he plays, the way he tackles, he just wins balls. But yeah, a silly challenge like that, Raul. I mean, I know he's trying really hard to win the ball, but it's like so early on in the game. Like you're trying to win it early. Just gotta calm down.
Yeah, he's had a lot of those in his career, unfortunately. So that's really nothing new, and it sucks because he just got into really good form.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought Bruno Guimaraes had a really good game as well for Newcastle. He's just one of those guys. He's consistent. He shows up every game. He gets the job done. He can provide a goal. He always seems to spot that pass that can break down a defense, that ball over the top. And I just wanted to put a little light on him because I think he's not really an unsung hero in this team, but he's one of the players that I really look for when I watch Newcastle play, and I enjoy watching him when he does his stuff.
Yeah,
I can't stand him. I think he's dirty. I think he's a scumbag. Truly, really? I really do. I really do not like him at all. Against Arsenal, he's throwing elbows, telling him to get up after he throws the elbow. It's like he just doesn't. I just don't. He's not a good guy. I don't like him.
Yeah, I like a little of the dark.
Don't care about him. Levels. He was their man of the match, but I could care less.
Yeah,
I agree, and I think a couple of things I just wanted to point out real quick from this game, too. Lewis Miley was the youngest scorer for Newcastle since James Milner in 2004.
Wow.
Just the name I wanted to throw out there.
That's pretty cool.
But Newcastle, they're adding to their injury woes, too. We know in the past couple episodes we've been struggling with the injuries. Joe Ellington went off hurt. Shaw took a knock in this game as well. So I don't know, man. It's gonna be tough for them coming up. I know they play Chelsea in the EFL Cup this week in the quarterfinals. So
yeah, they might have to spend a little bit of that Saudi cash come January for a little reinforcement. But on to Italy. Gee, I will just give you the floor to go ahead and throw us into this match week.
All right. Well, so Friday night opened us up in Serie A.
Yep.
We had Juve playing again for the second week in a row on a Friday night. They played Genoa, who've come up from Serie A. And to be honest with you, I've been really impressed with Genoa this season. A standout player for them has been Albert Goodmanson. He scored the equalizer in this game for Genoa. When Roma played against them, he absolutely fucking shit on us. He was the best player on the field by a mile. He was so good. And he was good again for Genoa tonight. I just like, it's good to see Genoa doing well and picking up points against a big team. As someone who's grown up watching Serie A all my life, it made me a little sad to see Genoa go down. And it's nice to see that they've come back up. They're doing well. They're picking up points. Right now on the table, they're actually sitting in 14th. They're 4 points off the drop right now, halfway through the season, just about. So I'd say that's pretty good for a team in their first season back up. Other than that, though, I mean, Juve was a typical performance from them. They don't really create much going forward. They're not exciting to watch. They're always pretty sound defensively. Chiesa scored a penalty kick. That was their only goal. And it finished 1-1. After that, Saturday, didn't really see too many really important games in terms of the league standings. The game I want to highlight from Saturday would be Napoli. I think that they got a much-needed result, especially the two goal scorers, Kvara and Osimhen. Kvara, especially, he's been struggling this season, as I said before.
Yeah.
And Osimhen had an unbelievable assist to set up Kvara. He took on about 4 defenders, juggled the ball with his thigh about 4 or 5 times, beat everybody, and then put it on a plate for Kvara to kill the game off. And I just thought it just shows that he's probably one of, if not the best strikers in Europe, to be able to do that and have the skills to do that. I don't think there's really any strikers that can do that in the world, and he really showed his ability there. So Napoli took a good win
right after that contract extension too. He really needed.
He's had a big week lately. He won African Player of the Year, so it's good to see him shining and continue to produce.
Yeah, like you said, the two of them being Napoli's standout players last season needed a performance because they were not.
Yeah, and it was one of those games I watched the game, and it was one of those games. Last season there was a lot of games where it was the Kvara and Osimhen show.
Yeah.
This weekend felt like that again, and it was just nice to see overall.
Yeah.
We'll move on to Sunday. I'd like to call Sunday Super Sunday in Serie A because there were some really fucking big games.
Yeah.
The early game was AC Milan Monza, which was at 6:30 in the morning. Quite an early riser for that one. But Milan walked away with all 3 points. They scored 3 goals. I thought they were the better side throughout. Tijani Reinders opened the scoring. He pretty much sliced through the entire Monza defense. Pulisic had the assist on that one as well. So big ups to Captain America. I know he's been doing some pretty good things with them for them this season. I want to give a shout out to Giancarlo Simic in this game. He's academy product from Milan. I don't know too much about him, obviously because I'm not the Milanista here. My brother is. But I have seen some things about him. I know he's highly rated defensively. He's a good center back. And he came on after 24 minutes because Pobega, who's filling in center back because Milan have so many injuries back there already, He went off injured, Pobega. So Simic came on. He scored 20 minutes later on his debut. So nice to see. It was pretty cool to see the players celebrate with him. They were all really happy for him that he managed to find the back of the net. And other than that, I thought Milan cruised through the second half. Mike Maignan doing usual Mike Maignan things. He wasn't really tested too much, but he made the saves that were required of him. And Milan capped the game in the 80th minute. Okafor scored off a nice assist from Giroud, and that was it. Milan cruised through. They're going to stay in third after that result, and that brings me on to my.
I want to stay in that game for just a sec. I know your brother's,
go ahead. Yeah.
I know your brother's not here. But he likes to talk a lot of crap about Pobega. So it's almost, I think he'd be a little happy that not happy to see the players go off injured, but to see someone fill in for him and then produce obviously a really good game. Great to see Leao and Pulisic, like you said. Pulisic is funny because if I remember correctly, your brother wasn't the happiest when that was like their marquee signing.
Yeah, I think.
He hasn't been good. Signing. I don't think anybody would have been happy signing him.
I think from my outside perspective, I don't think he's been outstanding. Yeah. I think he's had flashes where he's been really good. I thought he had a good game this weekend. He had an assist that he hit the crossbar in the game as well. I thought he caused some problems throughout. But yeah, like you said, in terms of the expectation, he definitely hasn't lived up to it. But hopefully, maybe this can start something for him. Maybe we'll see some more from him in the future.
I mean, 9 goal contributions in 13 games. I think a lot of Milanistas would have been upset that the money that they had to spend, because if I remember correctly, this is what your brother said, that he wasn't really happy that was where the money was going to, or I mean that was like the signing that was supposed to change up the team for them.
I mean, 9 goal contributions in the first half of the season that's nothing to be upset about at all.
Yeah,
I mean, I think most teams would be happy with that from a winger. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's been fine. I think he's been good. I mean, I'd take him on my team. It's the way he's playing.
Yeah,
he's been producing more than Garnacho, Anthony, and Hoyland combined.
I think the list of players you wouldn't take
before, they buy him for 20 mil, whatever it was. It was like, he's been pretty average, but he's been putting up numbers. He just scored the other day. Now he's got an assist. Just what you need from a winger. I think he's been playing fine. So
Yeah.
shout out Captain America.
Captain America for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And well, moving on from that game.
Yeah.
There was a game in between this and my team, which was pretty interesting for me. I just want to touch on it real quick because I want to give a little shout out to the goalkeeper on Fiorentina. They came away 1-0. It was a good result for them in terms of their chase for the European places in Serie A. But their goalie, he gave away a penalty like very early in this game. Within the first couple minutes, off a bad mistake, he was trying to kick the ball and he kicked the player. And he saved his penalty, made up for his mistake, and then he went on and he made 7 more saves in the game. I thought he was outstanding. He made a couple unbelievable saves, and he's really the reason that Fiorentina came away with 3 points in this game. So I just want to give a little big ups to Pietro Terracciano real quick.
Yeah, I'm looking at the stats on this game. I didn't get to watch it per se, but it looks like, even though, Verona look like they're going down as of right now, they dominated XG, didn't dominate possession per se, but chances created, shots on target. Like you said, the keeper had a great game, but did Fiorentina just not come to play and they just got bailed out?
My take on Fiorentina, on Verona this season is that they are not a bad team at all. They show up to play every game. They gave us trouble when we played them. They've given a lot of teams trouble when they played them. They have a lot of sneaky good players. I really like Cyril Ngonge. He's like a second striker almost. He really gets into really nice good spaces on the field, and he causes a lot of problems. You can see that the area of the pitch that he picks up is kind of like in between the midfield and the defense, and it's just people don't know what to do with him. And they have a couple other standout players, but Verona for me have always been a team like that can take a little shock result off the team every once in a while. They're not by any stretch of the imagination bad, and they deserve, I think, to be competing in Serie A compared to some of the other teams. So, yeah, that's my take on them. But
tell us about Roma.
Yeah, Roma.
So, I got some questions for you.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys will have a lot to say about it. But going into the game, I'll be honest with you, I didn't expect much. I think I was hoping for a draw at best. I never really expected us to win this game, just because if you look at the people who were out, we had no Lukaku off a red card suspension, no Zalewski off suspension, no Dybala off injury, a lot of other notable guys out there as well. And I was really disappointed. I felt like we really didn't show up for the game. Considering the magnitude of it, we're playing to keep our hopes of making top 4 and to hold Bologna off, essentially, because Bologna ended up jumping us in the table with the result. But nothing really happened for us going forward. I thought our midfield was all over the place. And Bologna were the better side, I thought, throughout the first half. They deserved to take the lead. The goal they scored was a beautiful team goal. Nicola Moro scored the first goal, I believe it was, and they were just, in my opinion, they deserved it. They were better. We had a couple of chances here and there, but Bologna's not really a side that play. They don't take a lot of chances. They don't play too exciting. They have a couple of decent players, stand out at least, but they're very well coached. They're very organized. They have great tactics, and you can see what Motta wants them to do is carried out for 90 minutes. They do everything that's asked of them. Everybody knows exactly what they're supposed to be doing, and it's just very apparent because Roma, on the other hand, I thought they looked all over the place. They looked like there was no direction from anybody. At halftime, it was 1-0. Renato Sanchez came on at halftime, and then he went off after 20 minutes. Mourinho apologized after the game, and he said he wanted to be public and say it out that he didn't take off Renato because he was playing bad. He just made a tactical change. But in my opinion, like, what are we even doing here in the first place? Like, how is that? If Renato's not going to work, why are we even bringing him on in the first place?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And I know he's a lone player, but like we've seen his history. He's got all the injuries and all that stuff, but that guy thrives off confidence. When he's not confident,
100%.
He blows. Like, remember that Swansea City pass to the advertising board.
Yeah,
like he needs confidence to do that to him. Well, it's like, yeah, you might as well just not play him again the rest of the year.
Exactly. And
yeah,
he came in for free on loan.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really expect much of him to begin with because, like we said, he's got a horrible history with injuries, and it's been the case since he's come in. He's only made a handful of appearances for us, and he hasn't really been impactful when he's played either. I think he scored one goal, but I wasn't even in the game he scored, and I wasn't really impressed in. But I was just really frustrated with Mourinho in this game because I just felt like tactically we weren't set up right. I know we have a lot of guys out, but still, like it felt like everything was wrong for the game. I just felt like we didn't show up. I felt like we were all over the place. Bologna were the better side, like I said, the whole game, and they deserve to win. They deserve to go in fourth place because of the form that they've been on this season. I think Thiago Motta is going to be one to watch out for. I actually heard something interesting this weekend that PSG were really interested in taking him before they took Luis Enrique to fill that manager job, which is kind of crazy. And he was the one. Thiago Motta was the one that turned it down, and said that he wanted to stay with Bologna. And I think that's big ups to him for backing himself and believing in himself that he could do something with his team. And it's showing. They're in fourth place. I don't think anybody at the start of Serie A in their wildest dreams would have expected that Bologna would crack the top four by Christmas. So
yeah, he's gotten a lot of interest from big clubs, and I think quite rightly. I think he's turned most of them down, and like I think was he not in Serie B for a bit too?
He was, yeah.
Where he just and he was already getting offers from Serie A clubs, and I think even he was one of the options to fill in for PSG when they sacked the manager. So I mean, he's kind of done it right. Stayed quiet, kind of built up his system, gained some confidence, and yeah, that's an impressive standing for Bologna right there.
And touching on a system, you can see every game Bologna play, they have a clear philosophy. They have a clear style of play. They're not, like I said, they're not flashy. They don't do anything exciting, really, but they just get the job done every time. And I think that's all credit to Thiago Motta and his coaching.
Yeah, I remember he made waves with that 2-7-2 formation thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys remember that thing.
Unfortunately, they don't play that formation, but...
So the formation is actually, it's not a horizontal formation, it's vertical. So that's the way it works, is includes the keeper. So they probably do play that, but yeah, I just thought that was always funny.
Yeah, I mean, from the numbers, you can see exactly what you're saying. Like, they fall well outside the top 8 in terms of goals scored, but then sit, I think, third in terms of goals conceded. So obviously, like you said, it's a very, and you can see it in how the game panned out. It wasn't like a high opportunity game. It was very like who could gain possession of the ball, and obviously Bologna did that better, and they just, like you said, ride games out, which I think, like, even if it wasn't their normal game plan, I think that was the perfect game plan to go up against this Mourinho side, because unfortunately, because of your injuries and your suspensions and all that stuff, your team was almost makeshift in a sense, where there was a lot of players that don't even get minutes, having to fill in key roles, and like, on paper, I mean, I don't want to sit here and just talk shit, but it's like this team just wasn't strong. That 11 is not a strong 11.
100%.
And it's difficult to even expect a result, especially from a team that's clearly on great form.
I'll be honest with you, when Dybala doesn't play, I don't expect much. If you look at the numbers when he plays versus when he doesn't play, everything's down statistically in terms of attacking, in terms of our passing, in terms of our ability to even hold possession at times. Like, he just makes such a difference to our team, and it bothers me that we're so reliant on a player that's never healthy, because we can't do that. We can't be reliant on him, because it's affecting us in the league, and it's gonna have an effect on us if we're able to make it to the latter stages of the Europa League as well, especially because he's usually hurt by those points in the season after he's played a lot of games. So it's just like, I have a lot of questions that have no answers, to be honest with you, about this game, and I really don't understand what Mourinho's idea was going into it. But like I said, it was just one of those where I wasn't expecting much going into it. I felt like, because of the way both teams play, whoever scored first in this game was probably going to go on and win, and that was exactly the case. So I don't know. It was tough. It was tough to watch all around.
I mean, I'm always going to back Mourinho. I love him. I said that in the last video. But, I mean, it does feel like, I know, like, Renato Sanchez is a Benfica product, so Jay's more invested than I am. But I do love a Portuguese youth, and I mean, he's 26 now. But obviously, he was a little star boy in the 2016 Euro, and I wanted a lot of great things from him. But it's interesting because, he comes off in the 64th minute after Bologna really came out the gate in the second half. But then they don't score. And the momentum shifts, I think, a little bit towards Roma towards the end of the second half. Not greatly in the sense that they were really putting it on goal, but I think they had much more control. So maybe Mourinho did know what he was doing, and unfortunately, Donato was the sacrifice to that end. But yeah, like we were just saying, I just think the Roma side's a little weak, and I don't know what you guys can do to invest, but it feels like you just need someone else to rely on to create chances.
I think
Dybala.
It'll be really interesting to see what happens when Tammy comes back from his injury, to see how he recovers from that ACL tear, and how we can work him in with Dybala and Tammy. I mean, with Dybala and with Lukaku, because right now I don't really know how. To be quite honest with you, I'm not really sure what. I really don't even know if they're all going to play at the same time. I like I said, I just have a lot of questions right now. So I hope I get some answers from Mourinho.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving on from that game, I guess we'll wrap with the last couple Serie A games. Lazio and Inter had a pretty big game to wrap the Sunday night fixtures. I thought it was pretty typical of Inter in this game. Lazio, they try to play their sorry ball. They try to be intricate and entertaining, and I think Inter's exactly the type of team that will beat a team that plays like that. I think that they're not a team that makes a lot of mistakes. I think they're a team that presses well, and that is detrimental to a team that plays the way that Lazio plays. And I think that the result is very descriptive of that. Lautaro added another goal. He's still the leading scorer in Serie A. I think at this point it's pretty expected that he's going to score every game for Inter. He's been unbelievable this season. I think in the past couple of years, there's been some questions about his consistency. I think everybody knows he's a great striker and a great goal scorer, but it was always that question of can he do it on a week-to-week basis? And I think this year, now that Inzaghi gave him the armband, he's really stepped up into that role, and he is scoring week to week, and you're seeing that in his numbers. And then his partner, who I have to say, as much as it pains me, this is the best attacking duo in Serie A. And I thought that Lukaku and Dybala was going to be the best attacking duo coming into the season, but unfortunately it is Lukaku and Marcus Thuram. They've been absolutely unbelievable. They either set each other up, or they both score, or one of them scores. It's just their show. It's very reminiscent of when Lukaku was there and it was Lautaro and Lukaku getting the business done for them.
Yep.
And I think that Thuram, I haven't really seen much of him coming over from League One. I was aware of him as a player, obviously, but he reminds me of a lot of Lukaku in the way that they use him. He comes deep, he picks up the ball, and he just drives forward. His power and his strength is unbelievable. A lot of defenders struggle to hold on to him and to keep him back, and he uses that to his advantage. He scored off a lovely pass from Barella in the second half, and that killed the game. Lazio cruised through. They stayed top, and that's pretty much it. I mean, Atalanta played today. They had a pretty expected result, I think, against Salernitana, who's sitting at the bottom of the table right now. I want to shout out Luis Muriel. This brother fucking just scores worldies like it's his day job. I mean, he scored another absolute banger. And Atalanta cruised through. 4-1 was the final. De Ketelaere had a goal and assist off the bench. But like I said, expected from them. They moved in. They move up in the table, and unfortunately for Roma, that result drops us down to 8th, which is just terrible because going into the weekend, we were 4th. So that result from Bologna, like I said, I think I said it at the end of the podcast last week. I thought that this game was going to be very important for us, and it was going to be a real deciding factor, and if we even have a say in the top 4 fight. And I think that just the fact that we lost this weekend in a must-win game and all the other teams picked up points and pretty much won tells you that we're not there, and we're probably not going to be there at the end of the season either. Yeah, but. Other than that, I think that's pretty much it for Serie A.
Yeah, going back to the Inter game quickly, I know Ange would hate it, but I actually think that Marcus Thuram pickup by Inter was incredibly intelligent because he just came off a great season at Borussia Mönchengladbach, if I didn't just butcher that pronunciation. But he just came up with a great season. He's a big, strong guy, quicker than Lukaku, more mobile. And Lautaro just seems to thrive under someone who can put down the ball next to him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that was super smart business. Obviously, Inter sitting top of the group, doing great in the Champions League too. That duo, like you were saying, just seems like so perfect, and obviously got to the ground running pretty quickly. We've in the past couple of games we've talked about how players just aren't clicking, and they're starting to now. But he clicked clearly right away. So yeah, definitely a good duo there.
Yeah, like you said, they brought him in for free in the summer. I was thinking of his brother when I said League One. That's why.
Yeah.
That's why I said that. But yeah, they brought him in from the Bundesliga from Mönchengladbach, and something that's really been notable for me at least is he wasn't really a player that was known for his final product. I mean, he doesn't get crazy numbers and goals and assists when he was in the Bundesliga, but here in Italy, he seems to be thriving. I mean, he's contributing every game. I think he's the leading assister in Serie A this season. So that goes to show you that clearly he's loving life in Italy and at Inter.
Yeah.
I was gonna say too before I wanted to talk about Marcus Thuram because we were actually fighting with Inter for him.
Mm.
We were
Yeah.
looking at him first, and Inter kind of swooped in, and then I think United backed off, which doesn't make sense to me because he was free. Because he had a great season
Right.
last year. I
Yeah.
followed him a little bit towards the end of the season because, obviously in January, if they're looking at him, I want to know how he plays. So,
Yeah.
he finished the season really good at Mönchengladbach. So, I was pretty upset to see him thriving because I wanted him. But then we go and get Hoyland for 75 mil instead of, Thuram, who's already proven himself for free.
Right.
Seems
So,
like
it's a little painful, but
seems like everybody United missed out on seems to be doing pretty well wherever they decided to go. That wasn't Manchester United.
yeah, and that's
Stuff.
why I went last time. I talked about the sporting director and the head of recruitment need to go. We need somebody new in there because clearly, I mean, they're just letting people go and they're playing great. So
Yep.
clearly, the coaches are making the right picks, but the sporting directors and whoever's making the final decision isn't. So
Yep. Questions
the
to be
Glazers
asked.
out.
Questions to be asked for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Give me and Jay a chance to shine a little bit here. We'll go to Portugal. I do want to mention really big week. Two really important games that actually closed out the weekend. So we'll cover quickly just some other medium-sized games, if you want to call it that. But the two promotions teams that we've actually highlighted recently in terms of how well they performed, Feirense and Estrela da Amadora duked out a 0-0 game. Didn't get to catch a whole lot of it, but obviously it was just a fun game, and those two clubs obviously really duking it out. Probably maybe a little worried about obviously what it meant to both teams to win or lose there, but clearly still showing that they're top caliber, getting a point at the weekend. Another fun team, I got to have a conversation with one of, I guess you can call back of house members of the Sons of Pitches. My cousin, who watches a lot of Portuguese soccer, he was telling me a lot of big teams, and one of them had a really big weekend this weekend, Moreirense, winning 5-2 against Portimonense. A really exciting team, sitting sixth in the table. Also came up this past season, if I didn't just completely ruin that. Obviously, I mean, scoring 5 goals against Portimonense, who has been having okay, pretty decent seasons these past couple of years, a little bit off this season. But that's a huge result. And then Estoril too is another usually consistent player for the past couple of seasons in the Portuguese league, having a good game against Famalicão away. But that'll bring us to Benfica, which come up with 3 points. But I'll let Jay talk about the game before I put my 2 cents in. How did you feel, Jay?
Yeah, so I thought they played pretty well. But yeah, I think the big story of the game is that Braga are legit, right? So they played very, very well. And I think had we not scored so early into the game, there's probably a good chance that we're talking about a different result. Because there was portions of that game where Braga was definitely the better team. But this was another one of those games where we played very well, definitely in the first half, but didn't get enough clear chances to score. There was one from our best friend João Mario, who again somehow played 90 minutes today, or rather that game, where he basically had a wide open net and put a P roller right to the keeper. So yeah, it's definitely frustrating again, but it was a good result against a good team, so I'll take it. But shout out Truben, the goalkeeper, 2 unreal saves to save that game for us. So yeah, shout out to him, man of the match for sure. But yeah, 3 points, 3 points. 1 point off Sporting now at the top of the league. But yeah, it was a good game.
Yeah, obviously that at the time had put you at the top of the league, but Dude, you must have been real nervous that second half. I feel like that was a lot of Braga. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Granted, you guys are going away. Braga has I think it's pretty cool. Some people it's kind of shit, but I think it's pretty cool. The stadium on the side of the mountain. I think it's pretty dope.
Cool.
It's a unique atmosphere. And yeah, you're going away to the mountains up north, and obviously probably pound for pound, your talent's better, right, on paper,
for sure.
And you're still missing fullbacks, like real fullbacks. Morato had a much better game. My cousin's been talking a lot of shit about him. I know you don't always like him either, but a much better game.
He still struggled. I mean, he right away got a yellow card because he got beat and threw someone to the ground. Like it keeps happening over and over again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, realistically, all the defenders really all got skinned by Bruma this game at least once. He was a menace. So he played really well. But I'll definitely shout out Antonio Silva as well. He's kind of fallen off a bit this season compared to last season when he kind of came through. But he definitely showed up this game. He probably had one mistake that could have led to a goal that I think was one of those big saves Struben had. But he definitely he showed up this game for sure.
Yeah, I think I don't want to say lucky to get away with 3 because obviously I think you deserve to score. You had a really good first half. But I think I would more call it Braga being misfortunate to not get something from the game, I guess, is like a better way to put it. I don't think Benfica were lucky by means, but I think Braga almost had the misfortune of not being able to capitalize on obviously a very dominant display for a good part of that second half. But I guess, at the end of the day, the better team wins, and that's what happened, I think.
For sure, yeah. But I think this definitely just proves that Braga belong as a real competitor to the big 3 this season.
Yeah, not something to look at that fixture and be comfortable about it. I guess I've been super excited to talk. Obviously, the game, if anybody doesn't, to give you an idea of when we record this, the Sporting game just finished before we were recording this. Oh my God, I've never been so happy. I was nervous going at the game. Obviously, Porto haven't been the best version of themselves this season. Okay, they did well in the Champions League, coming out second. Still there, obviously, unlike me and Jay. But Sporting were just flying. Victor Gyökeres again is just an absolute machine. Skinned Pep, left Diogo Costa with scraps at the near post. What a goal. And I'm upset because he gets a second, and Eduardo Quaresma, who I think Victor Gyökeres gets man of the match, he gets a goal and assist on paper, but I think Eduardo Quaresma was fantastic. He hasn't got many minutes. He was actually in the Sporting team, for those who don't know much about the team. He was in the Sporting team before Inácio. I believe they're like the same age or a couple months apart. He was in the Sporting team before him, fell out of favor, has been in and out of the B team, trying to work his way in. He got the start today against Porto, which is a huge confidence boost. I know we have a couple injuries, which, it almost kind of forces Amorim's hand, but he still gives him the start, and he fucking took it, dude. He played so well. He made so many great tackles. I think he was our key performer today on defense. Anyway, he goes on that run, like skims, like with his hair on his leg, João Mario's foot, and he just goes down. I just hate Porto as a club. They're just so dirty. They just go down everything. And honestly, they got what they deserved because that goal was not allowed, and Pep got a straight red, which me and Jay had a conversation about back and forth about like whether or not it was a straight red, because it just kind of depends. I'm not really big on players going to ground like Matheus Reis is, but he does get punched in the face. He is bleeding. You go to VAR and it's a red. If you look at it for what it is, by definition, it is a red.
It's Pep's reaction. He flails an arm up, punches him pretty much square in the nose. It draws blood. You got to give a red. And Pep's not a first-time offender either.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
You know how he is.
Yeah.
Oh, he's not?
No. I was just going to say his reputation obviously didn't help him there, because for me it was a sending off regardless, because if it's at least a bare minimum a second yellow. Right. Yeah. At least a bare minimum a second yellow. When he didn't give the yellow at first, I was honestly worried, because I was like, is this enough to go to VAR? And then they did, so I'm glad that happened, because I think it was merited for sure. It gives Porto a reality check, because I hate them as a club, I really do.
Same boat there. But yeah, there was a little dirty from Mateo's rage though. A little bit of try to bait him into kind of that.
Yeah,
he got what he wanted, but yeah,
right.
he probably should have gotten carded for that too.
I mean, we mentioned a couple games that had a little bits of things like this. There's a dark arts, right? That's why that's a term that's thrown around in football. And yeah, okay, he's just trying to get a reaction. He knows Pep's on a yellow. He knows Pep's reputation. Gets a hot head. The ref knows Pep's reputation. This is a very seasoned ref. I remember hearing them talking about he's been in the league for a long, long time. So, they know these players. You know what I mean? It's nothing new. Gyökeres had been mostly beaten into challenges, which Pep is not used to. He's 40 years old, but he's still a very athletic player. And Gyökeres is just another beast. So, got in his head, probably a little frustrated.
Fortunately for me, I think this game's kind of the proof that Pep's kind of done. We've kind of seen the best from him. He's been doing very well to stay up and kind of keep going at his age, but he's always been that big game player. Like no matter the last 5-6 years, even Euro 2016 final,
just became the oldest goal scorer in the Champions League the other day, right?
Too. But he don't have it anymore. He really lost it, and it's a little sad to see. But yeah, Gyökeres, you guys have yourselves a player there.
Holy I'm so excited.
I'd be surprised if you have him after in February 1st. If he's
I know.
A sports player.
It's tough because it's only 6 months, right? I mean, you guys lost Enzo Fernandez, but Enzo went because they bought his release clause, right? And Ruben Amorim, as cliche as it might sound, has been using that same thing that Rui Costa was saying. Like, come pay his release clause, and then for me that's good because 100 million is 100 million. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna be like, I'll be upset because it takes a lot away from our team because it's just a whole different dynamic. You know what I mean? Because like Sporting have lately been, we won the league recently, but Amorim's Sporting is good. It's quality. They show these moments, flashes of brilliance, but they leave you with this little heart attack, this little like faint, like palpitations in your heart because they just can't finish and then they just look shaky on counterattacks. So the fact that we have him who finally just creates this like Bas Dost meets like an actual athlete, you know what I mean? Like an actual athlete. Bas Dost was a great poacher, but just a lot of strength, a lot of size, a lot of bulk, a lot of poacher, like just great. And he creates too. I think
had an assist in that game too. So for your point.
Yeah. Goal and assist. So I just saw Fab. I got the notification a little while ago. I was making sure I remembered the number. 20 games for Sporting, 17 goals, 8 assists. That's 25 goal contributions. He's almost. At this point, he's guaranteed a goal contribution a game. On average. And last season was his best season for Coventry, which is why we bought him. He was on 22. He's not even halfway through the season on 17. This is obviously also a season of his career for him.
For me, this was I've seen Sporting play a few games this season, but today I really wanted to watch Gyökeres and pay attention to his movement, and I have to say I was thoroughly impressed. I thought every time he got the ball, he was dangerous. It seemed like Porto's tactic defensively was for Pep to man mark him every time he got the ball, and every time I thought Gyökeres got the better of him. And on the first goal, I thought Pep probably could do better there. A younger Pep 10 years ago probably locks that up, no problem. And I have to be honest, I think it was a little suspect from Diego Costa too at the front post to get beat like that. I know Gyökeres did hit it with pace, but he got to be a little bit stronger there. I don't think his positioning was the greatest. But I was thoroughly impressed with Gyökeres throughout the whole game. I thought he was fantastic. He looks like he's going to be a real problem in the Portuguese league for the rest of the season, and if whoever signs him is going to have a great player on their hands, because I think it's pretty evident that he can get it done in whatever team he's going to be in.
Yeah, and that's another true 9, which are pretty rare nowadays.
Yeah, and
not only that, he's a true 9. He's a true 9 that's creating, and you're seeing it in his numbers.
Like a Kane, Lewandowski, Holland type player. Like he can be one of those. He can get close to that level. He's an unreal player.
Something that really surprised me too today was his pace. I couldn't believe how fast he was for the size.
Yeah, it's funny. Obviously, I've been following my team all season, but he was showing a little bit of extra something today. He's been obviously phenomenal, but he was on some juice today. He was feeling real good. I just think the team played great today. Diogo Costa, I know you said probably should have done better at the near post. He probably also doesn't expect, like we were saying, goalies trusting their defenders. He probably doesn't expect Pep to get beat. Yeah, he probably was caught a little bit on his heels. You know what I mean? Like he probably didn't
Oh, you could see
expect
in
that
his footwork
shot.
he was 100%.
Yeah. But then I thought, other than conceding obviously twice, which the second goal was like a 2v1 against him, there's nothing much he could do. I think he had a really good game. I think Porto could have conceded 4 this game.
Yeah.
Obviously one was not allowed. But even just other chances could have gone in, and I think he had a decent game despite conceding twice.
Yeah, for me, I've always, since he's made his breakthrough at Porto and now been starting with the Portuguese team, I definitely rate him. I think he's a very good goalkeeper, and he's probably the best in the Portuguese league right now. But I do think Jay's buddy over there, Anatoly Trubin's coming for that.
Yeah,
and I just want to give a little shout out to Ukraine because they have 2 pretty good goalkeepers coming through right now. Trubin at Benfica and Lunin, who has stepped in and pretty much taken the number 1 job at Real Madrid right now. I think he's been really good in it. He's been in their team for a long time now. He's never really gotten any time, obviously, because Courtois is so great. But I think that he proved they didn't need to go sign Kepa over the summer because he stepped up. He's taken the job. Kepa can't get in the team, and I think that it's very good for Ukraine because they have a lot of young players coming through right now, and a goalkeeper is usually the thing that takes a national team apart because they can produce the players, but sometimes they can't really produce a goalkeeper. And it's nice to see that Ukraine have 2 outstanding goalkeepers coming through right now.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, just to wrap up, I think that was the game of the weekend. Obviously, Benfica. It was up between this game or the Benfica Braga game.
This was a straight Portuguese league game with red cards, fights, all that crap.
Yeah, actually, that was another thing I want to talk about because I just think the refereeing was just not that good in this game.
No.
Like I'm upset about the obviously the goal not getting allowed, which then makes up for it because Pep gets red carded, but he deserves that. But the yellow should come out right away at least. You know what I mean? I don't think the VAR. Many times VAR in this game took forever.
In the 90th minute for that, they didn't end up calling that goal, right?
That last goal. Goal where it probably was offsides, but and then they're calling it, and then they're looking at it like, oh, did he hit the ball first? And then I'm like, okay, maybe that's why they call. And then they call it a foul. It's like, dude,
it was, but you could identify that in 30 seconds. Yeah, I don't know why we're sitting there for 3 minutes. It just should be
quicker. Yeah, the refereeing in Portugal is just subpar.
I will say, Luis Godinho for the the Braga Benfica game did a pretty good job. Kept it going and didn't really get anything too crazy. There was one like a 50-50 with Font and Musa that could have went either way that people are crying about, but I think he did well considering the level of the standard we have in Portugal for officiating. Yeah,
there needs to be something done because there's just so much dirty stuff that happens and so much missed calls, so lack of communication. It needs a lot of work.
I have a question about the refereeing in Portugal because I mean I'm not one to say I watch the Portuguese league every weekend, but from what I know, because you guys usually talk about it all the time, the officiating has always been a bit suspect out there, and I wonder what you guys' take on it. I know there's always jokes on social media that the league is rigged and the referees officiate for Porto or they officiate for Benfica or for Sporting. But I always wondered what you guys' takes on it was because you guys are the ones that regularly watch the league.
Yeah.
Well, me trying to be unbiased, I just think every fan base thinks everybody hates them and everybody has something against them. Like that's just how it is. Benfica will cry that they favor the other teams. Porto will do the same. Sporting will do the same. They always do that.
Right.
But there has been a real issue with officiating. But I feel like sometimes you miss all these good results because then you just got a freeze frame of this random clip completely unrelated to the actual call where they're trying to prove their point and they're just calling everybody a clown. So like any good performance of a referee in Portugal just gets completely overshadowed. They don't care. They just tell them it's fixed. So it's just a never-ending cycle, which I don't think we're going to get out of for a very long time, unfortunately.
I don't have all the numbers and dates for you, but like there is real scandals that have happened. Like why Porto gets called out so much in like Portuguese media and social media is because of the fact that there was like some real scandals that like got almost like proven, but there was like no repercussions. Like they didn't get points deducted. I don't think so. Like there was like literally the Porto president, who's still president right now, was like paying refs with like prostitutes. It was like this twisted thing that like they found all the evidence and stuff, and he's still president, so who's to say he's not still doing it? But in general, to be completely unbiased, and I'm sure Jay will agree, the refs do tend to favor the big three. again in the against the smaller teams, like
Mhm.
Sporting, Benfica, and Porto will get calls, just because of it's a little top heavy, obviously. And then I think the biggest issue too is not so much like corruption or fixed games, while that is annoying. It's more like the attitude. Like when we've talked about Bruno last week, and how he fights with refs all the time and stuff like that. And he knows he does because he's acknowledged, he jokes about it. And that's how the attitude here players are. I mean, like you see it with any player that's been here for at least some months, you know what I mean? A season, players just start doing it because it's just the reality of the league. Like I said, I think I mentioned Gyökeres like sometimes even looks confused because he comes from the second division in England and they just fight physical and stuff. And then when everybody's like bitching and moaning about the slightest touch, he's like, "Yo, what is going on right now?"
Yeah, I remember he did an interview after. He was like so confused of
Yeah.
the way things happen here. So
Yeah.
that was interesting to see.
So it's
from an
also
outsider's
player
perspective.
attitude too. It's not everything is the referees. So, but there's something that needs to be done. And I honestly just start showing cards. It slows down the game. It can ruin the game, but players will learn. You know what I mean? When they have direct consequences, I guess.
For sure.
But yeah, that wraps up our favorite leagues. But a couple other games across Europe to look at. Anyone want to shout one out there just to start?
I think there was a couple good leagues, a couple good games in the Bundesliga we could talk about
Yeah.
for sure. Couple big games at the top of the table. I did manage to catch a couple of these games. Obviously, on Saturday we saw Leipzig take 3 points off of Hoffenheim.
Yep.
That's keeping them in the fight for the Champions League places and putting them ahead of Dortmund, who dropped points again.
Yep.
They've been, as we said before, they've continued to struggle in the league, and that really set everything up for another Super Saturday. Really, like I said in Serie A, they had one in the Bundesliga too. The first game of the day, well, the first big game of the day, we saw Leverkusen take on Frankfurt. Leverkusen, who have obviously been flying at the top of the table, and Frankfurt, who just came off a 5-1 thrashing of Bayern.
Right.
And I have to say, I thought Leverkusen were far superior throughout. They played Frankfurt off the pitch for 90 minutes, in my opinion. Victor Boniface stood out again. He had a goal and an assist. And I think my biggest takeaway every time I watch Leverkusen play is the way that they use their wingbacks is just outstanding. It's superb. I mean, there's not. I don't think there's really any team in the world that has a wingback duo of that caliber and the quality of Frimpong and of Grimaldo.
Grimaldo attacking is unbelievable. That guy is
unbelievable.
so skilled in attack.
Unbelievable. And Frimpong is absolutely fucking electric. Every time he gets the ball, every time he starts going forward, I get up because something's gonna happen. Like he's that type of player that just makes me want to see more of him. And I really feel that a lot about a lot of the Leverkusen players. Florian Wirtz is another one. He had an assist in this game, and he scored as well. So they've just been balling on all fronts, and I think it's really credit to Xabi Alonso. I know right now, based on the results, they're going to be winter champions. They'll be finished top of the league at Christmas time. And even if they don't finish top of the Bundesliga by the end of the season, I think people really need to consider Xabi Alonso as a serious manager and as someone who can really get the job done, because just the turnaround, and I think he's been there for about a year now, maybe 13, 14 months, and the step up in this team has been night and day. The atmosphere of the players, the locker room, and you could see it in the way they play. They all love being there. They love playing for him. I remember seeing a clip of Xabi Alonso in training spraying out passes to the players, setting up things in training for them. And I just think that's really incredible when you can have not only a manager that tells you what to do and knows what to do, but can go out there and show you what to do too.
Yeah,
right.
And I think that really it shows that how much the players love them, because they're playing unbelievable. And they, after every game, the first person, and even when they score, the first person they go to is Xabi Alonso. So I think that he's really had a massive influence on this team, and I think he's one of the top coaches to watch out for moving forward.
Yeah, this new wave of coaches, like we've mentioned, like Arteta, Xabi Alonso, and Thiago Motta, like that profile, that age of retirement, like that previous era of players, are really becoming like the next new big coaches. And I think the next 5-10 years, those are going to be the big names that all the big clubs are going to be after. And they're going to produce a lot of exciting football to watch. So I'm definitely excited to see those guys develop in their jobs and continue putting out good football.
Yeah, I do. I love the story of like former players coming into managerial or other positions in the club, especially players where you can see they're just top professionals. Like despite being rivals, I had a lot of admiration for what Rui Costa has been doing at Benfica. Obviously, what Xabi Alonso is doing now. And yeah, dude, Leverkusen are a fun team to watch. I think they play a similar style in terms of formation and where they have their talent as Sporting. So it's for me, it's like a little bit taste of home. Obviously, with the whole three back, very attacking wingers, and like that three up front that are like dynamic. Dude, Florian Wirtz is just. It's just obviously he's a common name in the press, but I mean he deserves every minute of his praise. He's just a phenomenal player. He gets things done. I'm sure if I looked at his numbers, he probably averages a contribution a game at least.
And I think the most impressive thing about Wirtz for me is he's coming off an ACL tear. Yeah. And he has not missed a beat at all.
Not one
He's
step
come back
behind.
to that team like he never was out.
Yeah. Grimaldo, obviously a fantastic player too, and it's good like they allow Grimaldo and Frimpong, who are naturally like Grimaldo's like more of a natural fullback because he played more in a four-back at Benfica. And Frimpong, I feel like, is more natural up front than he is back. But that Xhaka and Palacios they're very withdrawn midfielders, more like like eights kind of sitting back, I think.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're both in there, it almost creates this like little zigzag back five that's like dense and like can hold their own. It allows those two players to fly up the wing and allows then Hoffman and Wirtz, who are probably a little bit more inverted, and they attack with five, defend with five. I mean, it's crazy. It's
interesting. Awesome. I think, in my opinion, so far, I mean, we're just about halfway through the season now, so I'm pretty comfortable with saying this, but they're my favorite team to watch in the beginning of this half of the season in Europe. I think they're every time I watch them play, they're flying forward. They're sound defensively, and I just think that they're the most fun team for me. They're most entertaining, and they score a lot of goals. I think they average like almost 3 goals a game, 4 goals a game. So it's pretty obvious that they're a great team and they're fun to watch, and they deserve to be where they are at the top of the Bundesliga.
Yeah, I think we'll just quickly fly over Bayern finally being Bayern again. You know what I mean? Obviously, they've had a great start to the season. They've had a great start to the Champions League. But obviously last week we just talked about got thumped 5-1. So it was like a little like, oh whoa, hold on a second. But then smashed Stuttgart, who are coming for those Champions League places 3-0. Really demonstrated their dominance again. Harry Kane with another brace. He's might finally get a trophy. You know, it was tough for him at Spurs, but now it's tough.
Yeah, no. One player I wanted to spotlight from the Bayern game was Alexander Pavlovic, young kid, 19 years old. It was his 4th game for Bayern. He started in the midfield. He was incredible, in my opinion. He didn't look out of his depths at all. He wasn't afraid of the ball. He wasn't shy. His set pieces were absolutely world class, in my opinion. Bayern looked like they were going to score from every corner, every free kick he put in the box.
Yep.
And I think they scored 2 of them that he put in the box. So he had a great game. I thought he was, in my opinion, man of the match, not just for his play on the set pieces, but in open play as well. I thought he was very influential. And it's pretty cool to see a 19-year-old kid stepping into Bayern and getting the job done.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do a quick touch in Spain. They're obviously a big league. Not a super important weekend, but Atletico Madrid getting pushed back.
Absolutely thrashed.
Yeah.
I watched that game.
Off the field.
And I know it's going to sound crazy that I watch all these games, but this game was actually, I thought Atletico Bilbao were phenomenal in this game. I don't even think Atletico Madrid really showed up. I think they're having a problem, Atletico Madrid, where they're not rotating enough. I think they're asking too much of Griezmann and from Morata, and I think it's starting to show now that they've played so many consecutive games in a row, especially with the Champions League now coming to a close. Yeah. And I think that was pretty apparent in this game. I mean, Bilbao were all over them throughout. I thought Nico Williams was fantastic every time he was on the ball. Soyuncu especially just couldn't stop him. He scored an absolute whirly to make it 2-0 in the second half, and it was all Bilbao, and they deserved the 3 points, I thought.
Yeah.
And it was just, if I'm an Atleti fan, I'm pretty disappointed with that display, I think.
Yeah.
Let them burn.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say I don't want to hang too much in there, but Atletico Bilbao, with their whole transfer policy of only keeping the Basque players is phenomenal. They obviously get a little lucky with the Williams brothers because one a little older than the other, both absolutely fantastic talents. they've been able to cruise through a couple generations. They've never got relegated, and obviously they proved why they're still top 5 right now in the La Liga table.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Um, Barca dropped points again, and then our star boy, he's inevitable. Jude Bellingham scores again.
Before we go to the Real Madrid game real quick, I just wanted to say about Barca. I've watched them about 4 or 5 weeks in a row now, and I don't know what's going on there. They've been shocking defensively, and I mean, I don't understand it, because last season they were one of the best defenses in Europe. I mean, they had so many clean sheets. They conceded a single-digit number of goals, I believe, in La Liga last season. So for them, they haven't lost players, and for them to be going from that to this point in the season now, where they're leaking goals for fun and they're not defending well at all, they're standing off, they're allowing space. I just don't understand what's going on there. And also, like, we all know Xavi, like I said before, we know Xavi to play this expansive, entertaining football, quick movement, triangles all over the place. But the last couple games against Girona, against Antwerp, and even really against Valencia this weekend, they really don't take a lot of risks. It feels like something's, I don't know if they're missing that Pedri Gavi connection in the middle to unlock that pass that only they can see. But I don't know, something just doesn't seem right there.
Yeah, I was gonna say that they're dealing with a lot of injuries, but that was a strong lineup they played out last game. Like, that's pretty much, if you had everybody available, there's not many changes you're going to make to that, and they still struggled. So
it's
I'm not sure what's really going on over there.
100%.
Yeah, there's questions to be asked about Barcelona, but we will
see.
And
I think Xavi now, for the first time since Xavi's been there, he's untouchable. I mean, he's not untouchable. Excuse me. Right. I think for the first time now, he's actually got some fire under his ass, and he needs to figure out what to do and find an answer for all these problems, because they're pretty much out of they're 9 points off the top of the league halfway through. They're basically out of the title fight already.
Yeah, but I don't think I'd touch Xavi's job right now.
I think this is the first time that, like, he's got actual pressure on him, I think.
And he does, but I still don't think that should result in anything. Of
course. I'm not saying that either.
Like Barca, not saying you are, but like a team like Barca will be ready to fire their coach if they're not winning, because that's just how it is. But I think they've gone through so many periods of having crap coaches in the last few seasons rather, that they kind of need to get back to that stretch where they were having these runs of coaches like Pep and Enrique that are there for a good amount of time, establishing a culture and all that. They can't get back into doing this just because the one coach they've had that's won a league recently is going into some bad form. So I think they got to give him
a stick
all the time he
100% stick with him. But I think there's definitely some questions being asked of him right now.
Yeah, there's something, because the thing is, their starting 11 isn't bad. We talked about how Man City must miss Gundogan, but like, he's in this team and he doesn't always put in shifts, and like, why can't they get results? Their team on paper is not that bad, but it feels like their depth isn't strong, because the games that they are forced to rotate a little bit, they get smoked most of the time.
I agree. Actually, that's actually a really good point, because if you look at their lineup, like, coming off, they have great center backs in Araujo and Koundé, but behind them they have Andreas Christensen. Like, he's not the biggest household name in the world. Even at wingback, I mean, they're really, I think they're short wingbacks, honestly. They have a couple guys who can play on either side, and Balde and Cancelo, but we all know Cancelo is a world-class player.
Right.
He's definitely a Barcelona caliber player in his own right, but I don't think they have the players after that first 11, 12, maybe 13 players that can really step up and get the job done.
Yeah, I agree.
If you look at their bench, there's probably 2 players that should ever see the field for them right now from this last game. So, yeah, they're definitely struggling with depth and injuries, but still, that starting 11 should be enough to get a result.
You got the side that's struggling in Valencia as well. Like, they're not playing well right now.
Right. And then we'll just quickly, like I said, Jude Bellingham, inevitable, scores another goal. Just a star boy. Modric, showing his class, a little flash of his youth, goal and assist. But Real Madrid obviously to an expected win. And that'll do.
Before we move on from that game real quick too, I just want to shine a light on Brahim Diaz, because he's one of those players that Real Madrid have always owned him. They never really believed in him. They always loaned him out. He did great when he was at Milan and in Serie A. And now they brought him back in this year. And to be honest with you, from the outside, I questioned it. I didn't know where his place was really in the team, but I have to say, with all the injuries they've been dealing with right now, he's really stepped up and he's played well, and I'm really impressed with how he slotted into the midfield for them because I think it's really good for him personally because he's a player that I've always really liked. So it's good to see him doing some good stuff. He had an assist last week. He scored this week, so good for him.
Yeah. I do want to start wrapping things up a bit. So we just want to highlight the fact that PSG put out the weirdest formation we've ever seen. What looked like a box with a little stick on either end.
Yeah.
And obviously they didn't get a good result. I mean, they tied, but weird. Not even.
I mean, if you look at it on paper, I sent you guys a picture of it in the group chat, but it was basically 3 banks of 3. They played with no naturalized fullbacks on either side, and they had 3 midfielders across the middle. So they had 3 center backs, 3, I guess, central midfielders you would call it. Zaire Emery and Kangan Lee technically started out on the wings, I guess you would call it. Then they had 3 wingers in behind Mbappe up front. And I looked at that on paper before the game started, and I was like, this has got to be a fucking joke. Like, there's no way that a PSG with Luis Enrique at the helm is going to be playing that. And that was what they played. And they stuck with that tactic. They played it, I felt like, for 90 minutes, and the result shows.
Yeah.
They didn't know what they were doing. I felt like they were kind of lost out wide. I know they had a lot of wingers technically on the field at once, but it felt like nobody really seemed to know exactly where they were supposed to go and what they were supposed to do, especially in the final third. And obviously, that the final third is the most important area of play. If you don't have anything there, you're not winning games. So it's just very questionable. And I think, I don't know, Luis Enrique has just been weird there this season. I think a lot of people would have expected more from him, and he's kind of dropped the ball a little bit.
Yeah.
And also, before we leave League One, I really want to shout out Lyon because big ups to them. 2 wins in 2. They're out. They're off the bottom of the league table. They are in 16th right now, which right now, if the league was to end today, they would be playing the playoff final not at their home stadium due to Taylor Swift's concert on the same day.
Nice. Yeah. Obviously, transcends football. Taylor Swift. I'll give you a chance to just quickly touch on a game because obviously it had a lot of importance. A buddy of mine actually was celebrating it on Instagram. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But that Mexican Keep final, give us a quick synopsis so we can wrap it up.
Being the football nerd that I am, I do like to keep an eye out on the other lower leagues that are a little entertaining to watch to me, like South America and Latin America. One of those being the Mexican League, and this week was the Liga MX Apertura final. It was 2 legs. The first leg was it was on, I believe, Thursday or Wednesday night. That game it felt like a typical cup final. Honestly, I did not know that it was 2 legs. So after that game ended, my takeaway was, wow, that really felt like a one-off final game. Like, both teams really didn't take too many risks. And it ended 1-1, and there was no extra time. So I was like, oh, that must be a second leg. The second leg was on Saturday, and this game was utterly fucking fantastic from start to end. I mean, it was back and forth. There was red cards galore. Tigres finished the game with 9 men. The game went to extra time in the second leg, 0-0, and then Club America scored 3 absolute fucking worldies in extra time to take home the title. But it was just really fun to watch, and it was something I know a lot. Obviously, the Mexican League is not a league that people watch out for, but I just wanted to say that there's always good games to watch out for in those leagues, especially when there's cup finals. And this one definitely provided a good amount of entertainment for me this weekend to watch, that's for sure.
Yeah, I watched the highlights. It was great. It was a really cool game. Seemed like a lot of energy. There was that one video of the goal where the camera of the stadium was literally shaking because the atmosphere it was insane.
The atmosphere in those games is absolutely unreal. I mean, It's second to none in my opinion. Yeah. I mean, how many times do you see a goal scored and the main camera that's doing the live feed of the game is shaking because the turret is just vibrating from all the fans jumping up and down in the stadium? I mean, it's just incredible. It just adds so much to it, in my opinion.
Absolutely insane. So we will close out with our little segment that we like to do on the weekend roundup. So we're going to do our little 5-a-side team, So Rare Inspired. I will let you lead the conversations for goalkeepers, being a goalkeeper yourself.
Well, yeah, but before we start that real quick, I just want to throw my star of the week in there before I forget. We mentioned the Premier League earlier in the show, but my star of the week was Lucas Paqueta. He was absolutely unreal for West Ham. I think he struggled a little bit in the start of his career there, but now he's really starting to find his feet, and Moyes has really found a position for him that works. And all three of his assists, in my opinion, were world class. I mean, the two balls that he played forward to set up Kudus' goals were inch perfect. The second one, especially, I mean, not a lot of players are going to make that pass. And then the third one was a nice little 1-2 with Jaron Bowen to kill off the game. And I was just thoroughly impressed with him this weekend. And yeah, so going to the best five of the week, I am going to give a little bit of Serie A bias here, and I'm going to give my shout to Terracciano from Fiorentina. He had a fantastic game, like I said earlier. He made 7 saves, and he conceded a penalty after he made the mistake to give up the penalty. So I think, in my opinion, as the goalkeeper here, it's only right. He deserves to be there.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue. Obviously, you have a bias and a better opinion. Obviously, a couple of good keepers to shout out, Trubin and Onana, which we mentioned already. But I'll let you have it. I'll let you have this one. I'll give you the goalkeeper spot to Terracciano. Pat, why don't you lead the way for defenders? Tell us who we nominated and how you're feeling about it.
Okay. Yeah, so I can take that. I have to go on my phone here because computer's not working very well. But defenders that we have is Simic, obviously from Milan, the goal and the clean sheet. We had Nate's boy Quaresma, clean sheet as well, and we had Varane, who was the Premier League man of the match. Shouted out his teammates, clean sheet. My center back. And Dan Burn as well with a goal and a clean sheet. So for me personally, against the big Liverpool team, and I think it was the highest quality game, I would say, facing 37 shots, clean sheet, man of the match, I would say Varane is my pick of defender for the week. Well, match day, I should say.
Yeah,
I like that. I think especially too for Varane being the guy that's kind of, if it wasn't Maguire, the next scapegoat was Varane for Manchester United, and I think he's been criticized a lot. And I think for me personally, I'm a Varane admirer. I've always loved him, especially when he's at Real Madrid. I've always thought he's one of the world's best defenders and probably one of the best defenders we'll see in our lifetime. So I think it was really nice to see him step up in a big game and get the call from the manager and show up. So
it was a really prime Champions League performance from him. It looked like the old Varane before a couple injuries. So, and I read today that he's expected to stay. He wants to stay. So that was big news. I was pretty excited to read that as well because I'm also a big Varane guy. So,
yeah, I can't knock you. I did throw Dan Burn in that mix. I think he gets a lot of shit sometimes. But he's just a class defender. Got a goal in the week. So, but yeah, I think Varane. That's obviously a huge game against Liverpool. Obviously, arguably a really attacking team. So yeah, I'm not gonna pull away from you. I'll do some midfielders. Obviously, we highlighted a couple throughout our review. Modric with a goal and assist, showing his class. Paqueta, like you just said, just 3 amazing assists. Obviously, a hat trick of assists is what midfielders are supposed to do. They're supposed to provide, supposed to create. He did his job to perfect. Pavlovic with an assist as well, and Kulusevski, our ginger from Sweden with a goal and assist, doing great things for Tottenham, really trying to help fill those goals that obviously Kane leaves behind, and then Maitland-Niles with another assist. Just from a pure numbers point of view, and I also think he's a great player. I'm surprised he's not at a bigger club. No, I'm not to say that he's not a decent sized club, but Paqueta, I'll give him with his hat trick of assists. I think it's hard to argue against it, despite the other really good candidates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think as someone who's seen a lot of Paqueta when he was in Serie A at Milan, he was someone I really expected to reach some pretty high heights in his career. I think he's someone I've always rated in terms of his talent. I know my brother was a big admirer of him. He really loved Paqueta, and he was upset when Milan let him go.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people questioned the price tag when West Ham brought him in from Lyon. I think there were a lot of, I don't know, I wouldn't say naysayers about it, but a lot of people weren't really aware of the type of player he was, and I don't think his start to his West Ham career did him any favors either.
Right.
But this season, he's been on another level, and I think that's credit to Moyes, because I don't think Moyes knew how to use him at first, and I think now that he's finally figured that out, you're really starting to see a difference in his play. And I think the addition of Kudus also adds to that. Because last season, twice. I think he's been scoring on an unbelievable rate lately. But I think last season there wasn't really the type of player where Paqueta could play those balls that we saw him play this weekend. I know they've had Mikel Antonio in the past, but he ain't no double-digit goal scorer in the Premier League.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and Paqueta can dance too. Obviously, we all know that.
mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Jay, for our forwards.
Yeah, so forwards, I'll shout out Gyökeres, the goal and assist, Osimhen goal and assist. The Ketteler off the bench, I think, also had a goal and assist. And then Dovbyk had the brace for Girona, but I think like we discussed earlier that Gyökeres performance is really impressive. And I think he dominated, so that's what I'm going to give the nod to.
Yeah, it's very satisfying when I forced the Benfica player to pick my Sporting forward. I love that.
I cannot hate when there's real talent there.
Yeah.
I agree.
And then I'll give us a couple minutes to just really debate the flex position, because there's a couple good shouts. Obviously, like I really like Dan Burn. Obviously, the defender's job is to keep a clean sheet, but then he also scored. I'd argue that probably Modric and Kulusevski are in the running from the midfield position, and then Osimhen, like we discussed, had a really great game. But our other forwards with 2 goal contributions.
I think Maitland-Niles is a slept-on shout.
Okay.
I have been following Lyon a little bit this season, obviously because they're such a historic club, and to see them where they are is kind of disappointing. Yeah. But that was his first assist for Lyon. He's come in from the Premier League, and he's kind of struggled a little bit. I think probably all of Lyon's players have struggled for the first part of the season, but now he came off the bench in this game and he provided the winning assist, and it was his first assist for the club. And I think it would be nice to see him kind of let a little bit of a fire under his ass and start to kick on and get things going for Lyon. And hopefully they can start to win some more games and continue rising up the table.
How about you, Pat? What's your shout?
I think Osimhen's the no-brainer for probably the best assist that we're going to see all year. Yeah. Well, now that the year is ended, I should say. The best assist that I've seen probably in the last, 5-6 years. So I have to give it to him. I don't think it should be I mean, you could throw Modric in there for throwing a little, flash of the past, but I don't know. Osimhen carried that team, so
I agree.
I think he's got to be in there.
How about you, Jay?
I'd also agree. I think it's Osimhen for me.
Mm-hmm. Trademark performance from him this weekend.
Especially we talked about the new contract and kind of just taking over that team. Like, that was a good performance, I think.
And I think it's funny too because Angelo just said in the last match week review, maybe it's time to sell.
Right.
And here he is. He signed a new contract, new buyout clause. So he's proven his worth.
Yeah. I'm not going to go against the tide here. I think Osimhen definitely deserves it. Obviously, 2 direct goal contributions. Finally, kind of awakening himself this season again. And money talks. Whether that contract is to keep him or that contract is to entice a larger fee come the summer, it'll remain to be seen. But definitely a fantastic performance. Overall, huge weekend in some of our favorite leagues. Some of our clubs had obviously some really happy moments. Some of our clubs had some really sad moments. But at the end of the day, that's footy, and that's why we love this game. That's why we spend hours talking about it. And we're just going to do it all again next week. So hope everybody has a happy holidays if we don't talk to you guys again. And keep on being a son of a bitch.